Tell me something. Started this evening. Has anybody heard about anything that we might be able to talk about tonight? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm running out of subjects to be able to discuss. Yeah, right. Hi, how you doing? And otherwise, hello out there in internet land. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome back for another session of Chattin on the Porch, a nice, lively little live stream that we do throughout the week to talk about items in the news and help you, the hardworking brothers and sisters out there in America, get caught up with what's going on, such that when you go into the office tomorrow and someone says, "Hey, what'd you think about," you don't have to go, "What?" or something like that. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Rumble, we're everywhere on the internet, or at least as many places as I can get us to be for right now. So, if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, a Twitter, a Gab, a Truth Social, a Facebook post, wherever you are out there in internet land, and tell everybody, hey, there's a funny-looking man in a funny-looking hat who is here talking about the news. Let's go hang out and see what this idiot has to say. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. We're glad you're here tonight. Nice little crowd assembling in on Rumble already. Got a nice little crowd setting up on YouTube. Got to check out Twitter here in a second, see who's hanging out with us. But regardless of where you are, we're glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by the Electronic Front Porch. You guys are completely and totally awesome. It is absolutely a pleasure to have you here. And boy, as usual, are we loaded for stuff to talk about. So anyway, we'll start dropping the volume on the music and we will get right into it. Thank you guys so much for being here for Chatting on the Porch. Let's see who's hanging out with us so far. Over on Rumble, WWG1 says, "Good evening all. How you doing?" TBA says, "Oh my God, I'm late." No, you're not late. You arrived precisely when you mean to. Zippy is here on both YouTube and Rumble. You sneaky devil. I don't know how you're doing that. Let's see who else we got. Spaghetti. Hoping for Spaghetti Wednesdays. Well, like I said in chat, funny you should say that because that's exactly what I did tonight. I had dinner at a local restaurant here in town. It's been around for decades, and they serve some of the finest pasta you're ever going to eat. Or at least I think so anyway. It's like comfort food from home. So, and Zippy's lurking. Yeah, you're lurking everywhere. Everywhere. Oh my gosh. So much news to talk about. I'm so glad you guys are here. And let's just dive right in. And let's start with the biggest topic of the day because Lord knows it has sucked up enough oxygen for so many different reasons. And that is the Trump trial up in Manhattan, which has now gone to the jury. And as we get into TBA, well, not TBA, you just kind of psyched me out there. Actually, it was Jim's, to answer your question. It was Jim's. Okay, now you're starting to scare me a little bit, man. You're starting to scare me over there. So anyway, yeah, hola. There you go. Z Highness with the 199. We got a crowd starting to build. Glad everybody is here. As I start to think about the Trump trial, it kind of reminds me of a joke. And the joke goes like this. A guy falls off a 10-story building, and as he's about to pass the 5th floor window, a guy yells out, "How you doing?" And the guy that's falling down says, "So far, so good." And where Trump's concerned, that might be the best way to describe where he's at right now. Now, we've got a lot of clips tonight from different places around the internet and around media and etc. I'm going to do my best as a non-lawyer to kind of go through and explain what happened today because there's a lot of stuff that went down. And you wouldn't think that would be the case with a judge who's giving instructions to the jury and then the jury goes and deliberates. But I'll tell you what, man, it is just wild everything that happened today. So let's start from the beginning. And hopefully I do not bore you to tears. I don't think I'm going to, because if nothing else, I'm a very interesting fellow. So let's get right into it. So court reconvened this morning at about 10 a.m. And At this point, the only thing left to do was to give the jury instructions, which Judge Don Juan Marchand gave to the 12 individuals that make up this jury in Manhattan. He took about an hour and a half to do it. Now, you might sit there and say to yourself, well, it seems like a mighty long time. Well, this is supposed to be a complicated case. I say supposed to be because if you actually stop and look at the facts of what's going on, then you'll realize not so much. But it's supposed to be complicated. So an hour and a half to give jury instructions doesn't seem quite so bad. So at about 11:30 this morning, Marchand turned the jury loose to start their deliberations. Now, it is from there that we shall begin. And we begin with a discussion about the jury instructions themselves. Most people who have been watching this whole thing go on for the past 5 or 6 weeks have said that where Trump is concerned, this feels like a rigged trial. Every time you turn around, Marchand is sustaining the objections of the prosecution. He's done little or nothing to help the defense. Any motions that the defense have brought on Trump's behalf, Marchand has knocked them down. And it almost feels like we're in a kangaroo court or some banana republic court somewhere across America. Well, if you needed proof of just how banana court this thing has gotten, you're going to see it with the jury instructions that Marchand gave. Now, I'm going to play you a clip. This is Andy McCarthy, himself a former federal prosecutor, now a contributor on Fox News, standing outside the courtroom and discussing with a Fox News reporter the instructions that the jury was given. And let me tell you something. This is going to blow your mind. Folks, do me a favor and check this out. Again, this is Andy McCarthy. Let's go.
Well, let me ask you about the 3 choices. And one thing in particular that this judge said that these jurors could do. He just delivered what is being called really the pinnacle of all of this. He said that there is no need to agree on what has occurred. They can.
Do you get the feeling that we've already got a problem right there? But let's continue.
And disagree on what the crime was among the 3 choices. Thus, this means that they could split 4-4-4, and the judge would still treat them unanimously. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, it's really outrageous because in a normal criminal case, every statutory crime has what we call elements of the offense. Like in a bank robbery case, it's, you have to rob. It's got to be a financial institution. You have to show intent. Those are the things the jury has to agree on unanimously that they were proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Here, what we're doing is taking the element that actually makes this a felony, because remember, falsification of records is normally a misdemeanor in New York. What makes it a felony is that you're concealing or committing another crime. And here the judge is telling them they don't have to agree about what the other crime is under circumstances where that not only is what makes this a felony, what makes it a 4-year potential prison penalty rather than a year or less, but it's also what gets us into the courtroom, because if this had been a misdemeanor, the time to bring this case would have lapsed in 2019. So the only reason they're still able to bring this case is because it's a felony, allegedly, and yet now the judge is saying, you don't have to agree on what the felony is.
Did you guys catch that? Oh my word. Basically what the judge has done, and I'm going to try and break this down as best I can as a non-lawyer, okay? The judge has basically said that you really don't have to agree on what the predicate crime is. In other words, what is it that he's actually guilty of? If you don't think this charge is the one that's the most important or the predicate crime, well, you could say it's this. Now, basically, Trump's charged with 3 different things: falsification of business records, 2 other charges. Now, off the top of my head, I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. I can't even remember what the charges are. Hell, I'm not even sure nobody knows what the charges are. Okay. But it's so bad and so broad that and what they're describing is accurate. If 4 jurors agree, well, this charge is what he's guilty of, and 4 say, well, this is what he's guilty of, and 4 more say, well, he's guilty of the third charge, well, Marshawn could declare it to be, well, we have a unanimous decision. Therefore, he's guilty, and I'm sentencing you to 4 years in jail. How in the name of all that's holy does this make any sense? Now, to break this down a little bit further, and I got to thank Gypsy for sending this over to me. Let's take this one step further, and I'll show you a tweet from a gentleman named Paul Ingracia, who is a communications director for the Young Republicans of New York, Young Republican Club of New York. Take a look at what he's got to say about this. Just to break down how unprecedented Marshawn's novel theory of criminal liability is. Normally, in a criminal trial, the constitutional requirement is that a jury reaches a unanimous verdict on guilt or innocence. Unanimity requires that all jurors believe the burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, has been satisfied on every element of the alleged crime. Now, listen carefully, because here's where it starts to get in the weeds. Implicit in this scheme is that there is also unanimity on what the underlying crime is. You can't have one juror believing the burden of proof was met for one crime and another juror believing the burden of proof was reached for another, but not the first. And because both jurors believe the defendant was guilty for something, that fact alone should drive a guilty verdict. In other words, you're not allowed to do that. Let's continue. The above would be a due process violation for obvious reasons. It implicates double jeopardy issues and completely destroys the extremely high evidentiary standard needed to prove guilt in a criminal trial. But for Marshawn, none of that matters. If juror number 1 believes that the people did not meet its burden of proof for the FEC violation, but did on some nebulous tax law violation, while juror number 2 believes the opposite, the fact that they are both in consensus of a guilty verdict is sufficient for a guilty verdict. This is utterly outrageous. Marshawn is deliberately lowering the threshold for what Bragg needs to prove in order to easily reach a guilty verdict. That's the only explanation for what he's doing. Never mind the fact that he's flagrantly ignoring well-established precedents set by the United States Supreme Court that said what Marshawn is doing is unlawful of due process. For all the insinuations heard out of Bragg's prosecutors' mouths over the last few days that suggested Donald Trump ran his business like a mafia don, it's quite rich that it's the accusers who are relying on a Machiavellian ends justify the means approach of retributive justice to find Donald Trump guilty, massacring his due process rights along the way. Did you catch what he's saying here? And let me see if I can break this down. There's 3 charges: tax law violation, misreporting of a business expense, and an FEC violation. Now, keep in mind, one charge leads to another. Okay, so they're all tied together. But Marshawn is telling the jury, "Oh no! You don't have to worry about that. If you think he's guilty of the FEC violation, fine, no problem. But if you can't find him guilty on the other 2, no big deal." Well, again, let's take the scenario to its logical conclusion. What if you have 4 jurors who say there's a Federal Election Commission violation? He violated election law. 4 of those jurors say that. 4 jurors turn around and say, no, he's violation of the bookkeeping standards. That he didn't get that right. He deliberately, misreported what the transaction was. And then you've got 4 that say, well, no, he's guilty of a tax law violation. You could literally have 12 jurors split 3 ways, 4 jurors apiece, and still have a unanimous decision under Marshawn's thinking. He's guilty of something. No, you cannot do that under United States law. That's crazy. This is what Marshawn has instructed the jury to do is absolutely insane. And I'm telling you what, look, I've always said I'm no lawyer, but I'm telling you right now, If this gets appealed outside of New York and gets into a federal courtroom, Marchand's decision is going to be overturned in a heartbeat. TBA over on Rumble says there's no burden of proof. Judge has deemed Orange Man bad, therefore he must be guilty of something and everything. You got it. You have absolutely nailed this. WWG1 says common law versus maritime law. Yep, pretty much. Yeah, this is madness. This is absolute madness. Yeah, Orange Man bad. Oh, but it just gets even crazier. I mean, it's bizarre what's going on here. Here's Attorney General Andrew Bailey. What state is he from? Hang on a minute. Andrew Bailey is from Missouri. Good Attorney General too. This is insanity. Hang on. Before I read this, I got to set this up. Now, if you thought that the jury instructions were crazy, okay, I'll do you one even better than that. Now, keep in mind, Marchand took an hour and a half to give a very complicated set of jury instructions to these 12 individuals to go back in a room and make the determination of whether or not Donald Trump is guilty of one of these charges. In other words, there's 34 counts, primarily, supposedly over 3 charges, I guess, because we're still not even sure what Trump's being charged with. But he took an hour and a half to give some very, very deliberate and detailed, complicated instructions to the jury. And would you believe he wouldn't even let them have a written copy of the instructions? You heard me right. Don Juan Marchand wouldn't even let the jury have written instructions. I mean, imagine if I were the judge and I, go into auctioneer mode. Okay, on jury count number one, he's supposed to have this right, and then you ignore this piece of evidence, right over here, and then from there go ahead and let's move on. Charge number two. Now remember, now you have to ignore this man's testimony. Testimony's out the window. None of that circumstance. Imagine I did that for an hour and a half, and then sent you back and now that we're finished up, please go back there and determine what the verdict is. You would walk back in a jury room and go, "What the hell did he just say?" That's basically what Marchand did here. He gave an hour and a half of instructions to the jury and would not even give them written copies of the instructions so they can reference it and go, does this kind of fall under the instructions? Does this not fall under it? And to answer your question, no, this is not normal, and I'll prove it. Check this out. This is from Attorney General Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General for the state of Missouri. His commentary on all this, check it out as soon as I can get there we go. This is insanity. I've tried many jury trials in my life. You give jurors paper instructions every time. How are 12 jurors supposed to remember the elements necessary for each of the 34 counts? This is an illicit witch hunt prosecution. Now, what he's basing that on is Jonathan Turley's tweet, and we're going to read it here real quick. Turley says, here it is. He has ruled that the jury will not be given copies of the instructions, but can ask for them to be read again. Judge Marchand is giving the standard instruction that they can reach inferences based on facts, such as inferring that it rained from seeing people's raincoats. Quaint instruction. This is madness. This is unadulterated madness. First, he gives them a set of jury instructions that drops the bar so damn low that the prosecution doesn't have to meet a high hurdle to get over it. All they got to do is just walk across the line, and they've got a guilty verdict. Then on top of that, to confuse the matter even more, Marchand will not even let the jury have a written copy of his instructions so they can sit back there and go, okay, does this piece of testimony mean we have to exclude it, or does this mean we can consider it? Does this piece of evidence fall outside the rules? They can't even, they've got to do this an hour and a half's worth of instructions based on memory. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to insult the intelligence of the jurors, But these aren't trained, well, with the exception of two of them, these aren't trained lawyers. These are common everyday citizens trying to live their lives and do whatever. They've been called upon to make a determination of law with regard to a defendant who just happens to be a former president of the United States, who, by the way, is running for president again. You know, this is absolute madness. Over on Rumble, Zippy with a couple of Rumble rants. I'm a cat. I lurk everywhere. Sometimes hairball. Damn allergies. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, after I'm reading all this stuff Marshawn's doing, I might cough up a hairball. Zippy says, this is madness. No, this is Sparta. Exactly. Crazy. Just absolutely crazy what's going on here. This is nuts. Absolutely nuts. I mean, this is just bizarre. And believe me, everybody is railing against this. And understandably so. There is nothing in what Marshawn is doing that makes any sense if you're trying to give the defendant the full benefit of law, which he is entitled to under the Constitution and supposedly under the state laws of New York. So this sort of begs an interesting question. Where are we here? I mean, and to get one more about this jury instruction thing. David Oscar Marcus, himself a famed defense attorney, had some commentary about this. And believe me, he's thinking what we're all thinking about it, which is this absolutely stinks. Do me a favor and listen to his comments.
The jury must be overwhelmed. I mean, to have all of these instructions just read to them without them getting a copy is going to be overwhelming for them. And also, it's crazy that the lawyers were not able to discuss the instructions in their closings yesterday. Typically, lawyers can go through the instructions and explain why they've met them or why the government hasn't met them, and they weren't able to do that yesterday, which I find bizarre. I think the lawyers should have been able to do that because the jurors right now must be wondering, what is this all about?
And he's absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. This is madness. Look, it's like I said, we're talking about men and women who, and we know some of their occupations. We're talking about school teachers. We're talking about computer programmers, retired investment bankers. We got a couple of lawyers on this jury. And again, laying aside the two lawyers on the jury, you've got 10 individuals that they might keep up with the news. They might, try to follow what's going on, but by and large, they're not lawyers. I mean, they have their opinions about what's right and wrong, but they don't know what the law is or the law says. And this judge hands them an hour and a half of instructions related to 34 different criminal counts against Donald Trump. And laying aside the fact it's Trump, let's just take Trump's name out of it. Okay? Take Trump's name out of it. This is crazy. An hour and a half worth of jury instructions, and you're expecting people to go back into a room and deliberate for however the hell long they're going to be back there deliberating and have no way to reference your instructions? You don't even have the good decency to give it to them in writing? Lord knows you had the time. I mean, you dismissed the jury and everybody else last week for Memorial Day weekend. What, you couldn't go home, type up the instructions? Or have your clerks type up the instructions? What, I mean, is New York State so destitute of money that y'all can't afford the paper that it takes to write down these instructions and make multiple copies and pass them out to the jurors? Are y'all that hard up there in the Empire State? Good grief. WWG1 over on Rumble says, this is a clown show, all the better to wake up the American people. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that, which, by the way, there's a lot of people waking up to this. And surprisingly, believe it or not, even though they may hate Donald Trump's guts, maybe the folks at CNN's waking up to some of what's going on. So Marshawn sends the jury back to the room to start the deliberations, and then, of course, pundits and commentators, being pundits and commentators, they got to engage in punditry and commentary. So we go to CNN. Jake Tapper's got a round table, and he asks a very pertinent question, which I think ought to be answered here. Take a look at what he asks and the answer he gets.
Because I don't know that they have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that even if you believe the prosecution's theory of the case, that Michael Cohen was doing this and Alan Weisselberg was doing that and McConney was doing this and all these people were doing all this stuff, I don't know that they've proven that Donald Trump knew.
They have not.
Yeah.
They absolutely have not. And I think.
Oh my God. Even CNN is saying it. There ain't no way they've proved this. There's no way in the world they have proved this. This is crazy. Yeah, and I mentioned that one of the jurors is a retired investment banker. That might be an advantage here. You might be right. You might be absolutely right. I mean, we'll see when they come out of this thing. Which, by the way, that gets to another very interesting point, which we will get to momentarily. All right, one more clip. We've talked about the legal parts of this. Let's talk about the political for a second. If you are wondering, my friends out there in internet land, whether or not lawfare against Donald Trump is working, well, CNN or the folks over at CNN are coming to a very nasty realization, and this clip is just priceless. Harry Enton, who's one of the polling people over at CNN, is talking with one of the hosts. Check this out.
At this particular point, that Trump train that's been moving faster than it's ever moved before in a general election doesn't show any signs of slowing down, despite the criminal indictments against him, despite the fact that this case in New York is now going to the jury, John.
And you want to know why? Because nobody cares. And now, don't get me wrong. When I say nobody, I'm not talking about you, and I'm not talking about me, and I'm not talking about thousands and millions of other patriots across the country. And for the record, I'm not even talking about the people on the other side of this argument who want to see Donald Trump be crucified. They care, but most Americans don't give a fig about this. They don't. WWG1 says, it isn't called the Great Awakening for nothing. Boom! You are absolutely right. TBA says lawfare against Trump should be boosting Trump's coffers higher and higher. Hey, the man raised $25 million more than Joe Biden did in the month of April. Well, you might be on to something, brother. You might be on to something. You know, this is just absolute madness. And we've got more to talk about with all this. Now, the jury started deliberating around, let's call it 11:30 this morning. Okay. And then at about 3:00, something really weird happened. Now, let me be very careful here and define weird. Okay. Or maybe a better way to say it is something that defied expectations. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean, look, I'm about as positive a guy as you're ever going to run into, okay? Or I try to be. But I'm also a realist. They ran this trial up in Manhattan in an area that voted probably 70 or 80% for Joe Biden in 2020 in front of using a prosecutor who has campaigned on the idea of getting Donald Trump, much like Letitia James. The odds of Trump coming out of this thing with a not guilty verdict are like slim and none, and Slim's already hit the door, okay? And I think that's fair to say. So even though I try to be as positive as I always can be, I am expecting a guilty verdict on one of these 34 counts, okay? Most people who are watching this are expecting Trump to be found guilty. I mean, even the most, ebullient, bubbly soul out there in social media who, even if they're moderate, okay, in their political beliefs, are expecting that they're going to find Trump guilty of something, okay? And add to that expectation the belief that if Trump's going to be found guilty because he's in Manhattan, because this trial is being orchestrated by Alvin the New York Chipmunk, that this guilty verdict is going to come down fast. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were expecting the verdict to come back this afternoon. Well, that gets us to what happened next. Rounds about 3 o'clock, lawyers started returning to the courtroom. Trump came back into the courtroom, followed by his lawyers and Donald Trump Jr. Judge Marchand received a note. Now, folks, like I said, anybody that's watching this, when that note came in, I'm not going to lie, my heart sank. I went, oh, shit. Here it comes. TBA says, what did the jury note say? Hang on to that. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I am West Virginian, which means I get to tell my story as good and long and drawn out as I want to. And believe me, if y'all ain't hang around me long enough and figured it out, I have a certain amount of dramatic flair. You hold on to that, TBA. I'm getting there. The jury requested something of Marchand, and the something goes like this. The jury's note asks to review 4 pieces of testimony. David Pecker's testimony regarding his phone conversation with Trump while Pecker was in an investor meeting. Now, David Pecker is was the CEO, and the CEO of the National Enquirer. Okay, and he and Trump had a relationship. Supposedly, Pecker was on the lookout for stories. Yes, that is his last name. Bless his heart. Let's keep it clean here, people. I know he should have changed his name to Member, but David Member, does that really make it any better? I don't know. Anyway, the CEO of the National Enquirer had a relationship with Trump, and he told Trump, hey, I'll be on the lookout for stories because we know there are going to be people out there that are going to try to do you dirty. Okay, so the jury wants to review testimony regarding a phone conversation that Pecker had with Trump. The second thing they want is Pecker's testimony about his decision not to finalize and fund the assignment of Karen McDougal's life rights. In other words, there was another story out there aside from Stormy Daniels, and that was related to former Playboy model Karen McDougal, who there was a story out there about her and Trump. But apparently, David Pecker decided not to pay for, Karen McDougal's story. The third thing they wanted was Pecker's testimony about his August 15th Trump Tower meeting. And finally, Michael Cohen's testimony about the same meeting. So now keep in mind, up till now, they've been in there for maybe almost 5 hours. And to give you an idea, the breathless anticipation that the mainstream press has about this verdict, they've got a clock. Literally, Politico has a clock clocking the amount of time that the jury is back there deliberating. I mean, the levels of drama that these people are going to is just absolutely absurd. And before we continue, let me give a tip of the hat to Mr. Christian Watson, aka the Professor. The Professor is in the house. By the by, he did not ask me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's got a new video coming out on his channel June the 1st with a discussion about the upcoming Pride Month. So do me a favor, help out Christian Watson. Go check out that video. Give him a thumbs up. And while you're at it, give me a thumbs up right now on YouTube and Rumble since we're on the subject. Bless your hearts. All right, let's get back to this. So the jury asks for to go over this testimony again. All right, fine. But what does that mean? Well, we turn to the inestimable professor of law from George Washington University, the legendary Jonathan Turley. Turley's got some commentary about this. And we go to his Twitter page to read the following. So he goes over the 4 items requested. Notably, Joshua Steinglass, and if you don't remember, Joshua Steinglass is one of the prosecutors working on behalf of Alvin Bragg. Steinglass emphasized with the jury that David Pecker met with Donald Trump at Trump Tower in January 2017, and they discussed Karen McDougal. One of the most notable elements of the closing was that Steinglass said that Pecker testified that Trump thanked him for his help on the McDougal story. Okay. Now, there's a difference, however, between saying, well, thanks for your help on it versus, hey, be on the lookout for this and I'll pay you for da-da-da-da-da. I'm just adding that legal caveat. Let's get back to what Turley has to say about this. A little bit further into his Twitter thread, Pecker testified that he told Trump that, quote, I would be your eyes and ears, then if anything that I hear in the marketplace, if I hear anything negative about yourself, or if I hear about women selling stories, I would notify Michael Cohen, and then he would be able, sorry. He would be able to get them killed in another magazine, the story, or somebody would have to purchase them. Okay, that's fine. Back up for a second because there's a little bit more that goes along with this. This is obviously a key issue of Trump's knowledge and direction. Notably, the meeting did not include express statements on how payments would be made or how they would be recorded. It is a meeting that was primarily highlighted to show Trump's knowledge of the work of Pecker and Cohen. It is to be expected that any discussion of Trump's intent and knowledge would include a close review of the Trump Tower meeting. It also shows the importance of David Pecker and his testimony. Pecker offered both sides of good testimony. For the prosecutors, he made clear that he was killing stories in relation to the election. However, for the defense, he admitted that he had previously killed stories not only for Trump, but for other celebrities. The Trump Tower meeting is also key to the government's argument that none of this was a formal, legitimate press function. Marchand instructed the jury on the exception for such functions, yet each side prepared evidence on what was the normal function. Okay. Now, that is the highbrow version of why the jury may be asking to review this. Let me give you the take of one Robert Barnes, one of my favorite attorneys. When Barnes was asked, what do you think the jury's after? He said, my read, some jurors voted not guilty, and the lynching jurors, in other words, however many of them that want to find Trump guilty, are demanding conviction by asking the questions to lecture the holdouts. In other words, hey, you people that don't want to find Trump guilty, we're going to go back in the courtroom. We're going to make the judge read this stuff out again. And it ought to become overwhelmingly obvious to everybody that this guy's guilty of something and you need to go along with us on this. All right. Maybe. We'll see. Oh, Lord. Oh, come on now. Look, I cannot speak to what Donald Trump was or was not doing back in the day. Goodness gracious, this audience, I tell you sometimes. Jeez, I'll pate. My goodness. Okay. So, by the way, I got to give you guys a funny in the middle of all my ranting. A friend of mine, and I call her a friend, and she's someone that I follow on social media. Her name is That Tug Life. Sweetheart of a young lady. She's on YouTube. She's on Twitter. She's on various places. She retweeted something that somebody else put out there, and I found this story so funny that I'm going to share it with you, because if you want an idea of how much of a boss, and I use the word boss in a good sense, okay, how much of a boss Donald Trump can be, there is a story that allegedly happened during this 3:00 exchange between the jurors and Marchand that I have got to share with you, because this is totally hilarious. Let me put this up on the screen. Judge Marchand has ruled against him, talking about Trump and his legal team, again and again. Finally, Trump lost his temper and said, "What a moron." The judge, flushed with anger, shouted, $1,000 fine. $1,000? Trump said. I said 3 words. Those 3 words were contempt of court, the judge said, and that's a $1,000 fine. Mr. Trump got his wallet out and started looking through it. Thinking there'd been a misunderstanding, Judge Marchand calmed down a bit and said, you don't have to pay it now. Mr. Trump replied, no, I'm just checking to see if I have enough cash on me for 2 more words. Just 2 more. Oh my God. That's great. I mean, look, can I verify whether that's true or not? I maybe I can find it. I don't know. But even if it's not true, show of hands out there in the audience. How many of y'all think you just see Donald Trump doing something like that in court? Hey, Judge, no, I'm just seeing if I got enough money for 2 more words. Just 2 more. You have got to love Donald Trump sometimes. I'll tell you what. TBA says, I want enough cash on hand to piss off a judge. Exactly. Hello, Commander. Good to see you, sir. Oh my God. No, I found that story and I'm like, I have got to share this with y'all. That is just too funny. Okay. So where are we at? Well, then another development happened. About the time they're trying to sort out this whole thing about the testimony, then we get this. Marchand gets another note. The jurors want to rehear the judge's instructions. Oh, gee, imagine that. 12 individuals sit in front of a judge for an hour and a half, and he sits up there behind the bench pontificating about what the instructions are, doesn't give the jury, a written copy of it, and now they come back out of the juror's room and say, by the way, can we hear those again? What'd you expect, you nitwit Marchand? You moron. Marchand, you moron. Lord. WWG1 says, I predict the verdict will come just before the weekend. I disagree with you. I say it's coming tomorrow. And that could be for good or bad, but I say it's coming tomorrow. TBA says, Judge, could you repeat those instructions, please? Exactly. This is the craziest thing I have ever seen. So the jury asks to hear about 4 different pieces of testimony. 3 pieces of it related to the CEO of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, and Michael Cohen, the gloat, greatest liar of all time. And now, one other interesting thing to note, and I will... Turley had one more thought as it related to the request to hear the jury instructions again. The request for instructions is particularly interesting. I can't imagine the need for the instructions unless there was an early disagreement in that room, the jury room, on the evidence and the standards. That could indicate at least one juror is not convinced by either Steinglass or Blanche saying that this is a no-brainer. Going a little further into his tweet thread, we have the following. Another intriguing possibility, one threshold issue, is whether any of Cohen's testimony ought to be even considered. What if a juror invoked Marchand's instruction that if Cohen lied on any material point, the jury should feel free to disregard the entirety of his testimony? That would raise whether there is corroboration, as in the Trump Tower, as well as the instruction. Obviously, this is all speculation, but it does give us something to do. And I'm starting to wonder, and I tend to agree with Turley on this. I mean, look, it's like I said a little earlier. I honestly, as stacked against Trump as this thing is, I honestly expected them to come back around 3 o'clock with a guilty verdict. But the fact that they're asking for certain testimony to be reread or at least have a look at it again, and then asking for the instructions. Robert Barnes might be right. It might be that you've got one, maybe more jurors who are like, man, I can't do it. This case doesn't make any sense. And then you got the other juror like, daggone it, we know he's guilty. Get that testimony read again. We know he's guilty. We're going to make you do it. I don't know. There's an old theory when it comes to cases like this that I've always heard, that the longer that the jury is out, the better it is for the defendant. Now, that said, I think for Trump, where this trial is concerned, that is absolutely true. The longer this jury stays out, the better the chances are of a mistrial. He is not going to get a not guilty verdict, okay? Look, I'm as fair-minded and as optimistic as anybody else, but given the judge, the jury instructions, the composition of the jury, where this trial is taking place, the fact that the prosecution has been given practically every advantage possible under the sun, the fact that the defense has been screwed at every turn, there ain't no way in the world Donald Trump comes out of this 34 counts, all of them not guilty. My thought, and I'm not the only one that's feeling this way, the best shot he's got at this is a mistrial. In other words, out of these 12 jurors, you've got one or more who says, I can't do it. And for whatever reason, either I can't figure out what the underlying crime is, I can't figure out, who I'm supposed to believe here. The charges make no sense in light of the evidence being presented. For whatever reason, one or more jurors comes away and says, I just can't do it. I can't vote guilty on any of this. And you're going to have X number of jurors who are like, hang him by the yard arm, do it. Put Trump in jail, throw him in the clink, throw away the key. The longer this goes, and it might be a thing where it goes into tomorrow afternoon and they come back with a guilty verdict. I don't know. I guess I'm holding out hope against hope that at a minimum, we get a mistrial. For sure, this trial never even should have happened. Never should have happened at all. But if we're going to get through this miscarriage of justice, at least let's have a mistrial. So, TBA over on Rumble says even a mistrial will lead Marchand to claim that Trump is guilty of something. The Democrats are going to do the same thing. Joe Biden is basically chomping at the bit to get in front of a microphone. That's a great question. And I asked something like that the other night. Oh, by the way, you want another funny? So, when the first request came in from the jury to rehear the testimony, the lawyers on both sides said, hey, look, we need to go over this and determine what we both agree the jury needs to hear again. So, Trump's lawyers said, Your Honor, look, can we just request that our client, go into an antechamber while we're trying to sort this thing out? Marchand said yes. It was at that point that the Donald and the Donald Jr. got together and had a little fun. And it goes something like this. So they're in an antechamber off of the main courtroom, and check out this little piece of fun. I thought this was, to give you an idea of the spirit of these men, try this.
Hey guys, I'm here with your favorite president. We're cranking out a couple mean tweets at the courthouse. Why don't you read that last one, because I think it's pretty
Well,
epic.
I think I'm going to put it out instead of reading it, but I know my son's doing very well on social media. I'm proud of him.
Stay tuned. It'll be a doozy.
I'm sorry. That's funny. That's just... If I really let this trial get to me, past the observations and past everything else, I think I would either tear out my hair or just cry. But give Donald Trump and his family, or at least Trump anyway, credit. Keeping his chin up, trying to find a way to laugh through it all, you know. So yeah, definitely. I thought that was something you guys needed to see. And I'm just jotting down a quick note, and I'm going to do a commercial for somebody, one of our regulars. The commander has his own YouTube channel called go over there. After I get done, I'm giving you a sub, brother. I'm going to give you a sub. But right now, I'm giving you a shout out. Guys, if you're regulars here on the Electronic Front Porch, do me a favor. Go over to the Tower Commander's channel, hosted by our good friend, the Commander. Give him a sub. I will do that after the show tonight. I give you my promise on that one. Zippy over on Rumble with another Rumble rant. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. The Clintons must be promising Mershon some concert boots if he does not risk his frock and robe. TBA says, Brian, have you got any hair left to tear out? Surprisingly, yes. I do, believe it or not. Trump is going to come out of this okay. Brian and chat, the only thing that will take a beating is our national self-respect, TBA says. I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there. But yeah. Now, I'll give you what the mainstream media is saying about the first request for the testimony. And let's go through this because I think it's worth talking about. This is from the folks over at Politico, written by Ben Feuerherd. At least I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. We've got the following. In the first jury noted deliberations, the panel requested to review testimony that relates to Donald Trump's alleged scheme to undermine the 2016 election, including 3 excerpts of testimony from tabloid publisher David Pecker. The first excerpt the jury requested was Pecker's testimony about a 2016 phone call in June that he received from Trump while he was in a meeting with investors in New Jersey. On Tuesday, in his closing argument, prosecutor Joshua Steinglass highlighted that phone call as evidence that Trump knew about and had direct involvement in the scheme to catch and kill negative stories about him during the 2016 campaign. On the call, Steinglass said, Trump and Pecker discussed buying the rights to carry McDougal's story, and Trump told him that Michael Cohen would follow up about finalizing the deal. McDougal is the former Playboy model who alleged that she had an affair with Trump. Now, before we go any further, may I respectfully point out something to the author of this article? A catch and kill scheme is not illegal, nor is it a violation of federal election law. Okay? A catch and kill situation is not unusual at all for anybody, men or women of prominence, by the way. So let us continue. Quote, this call makes it impossible for the defense to claim that Cohen was acting on his own, Steinglass said in his closing. The jury also requested Pecker's testimony about his decision to pull the plug on assigning McDougal life rights, in other words, her story about having sex with Trump, to a shell company controlled by Cohen. Steinglass also raised this in his closing argument as evidence that the scheme was a crime. The prosecutor told jurors that Pecker pulled out of the deal at the last minute after speaking with America Media Inc.'s general counsel. He runs that by his general counsel. His general counsel says, no, don't do that, the prosecutor said. Finally, the jury requested testimony from both Cohen and Pecker about a critical piece of evidence. The 2015 Trump Tower meeting where Cohen, Pecker, and Trump allegedly cooked up the scheme to help Trump's campaign by using the National Enquirer to publish negative stories about Trump's opponents while burying negative stories about Trump himself. The meeting is at the heart of the prosecutor's allegation that Trump directed the alleged conspiracy. It was at the meeting that Pecker agreed to be the eyes and ears for Trump and to notify Cohen about any potential negative stories about the candidate that were, quote, on the market. In the prosecutor's telling of it, That meeting touched off the entire 2016 election interference scheme, leading to Pecker and Cohen executing 3 catch-and-kill deals to purchase stories so they would never be published. And again, there is nothing illegal about a catch and kill. Not at all. And it is not a conspiracy, and it's not election interference. It's not anything of the sort. I mean, these guys over Politico, this author is just absolutely outrageous with this. But anyway, let's get back. Pecker and his company bought the first 2, McDougal and a false story about the Trump doorman who alleged Trump had a love child with an employee at the building. Cohen stepped in to buy the third, Stormy Daniels' claim about having sex with Trump in 2006. After he paid for the Daniels story, Trump allegedly fraudulently reimbursed Cohen for the payment in a cover-up, leading to the charges that he's on trial for. Hell, we don't even know what he's on trial for. That's how crazy this is. And again, I make the statement, which any lawyer will tell you the same thing. A catch and kill situation is not election interference. I mean, let's think about this logically for a second, okay? Michael Cohen, under his own testimony, admits Donald Trump did not know at all about what he was doing with regard to this Stormy Daniels situation. Cohen, under his own testimony, said, I took out a home equity loan to pay for it myself. And by the way, also further testified he stole $30,000 from the Trump organization, but let's lay that aside for a moment. Cohen turns in his legal expenses. The accountant in the accounting department of the Trump organization records an accounting journal entry. Cohen gets paid. Trump does not know about any of this. Trump did not make the accounting entry. He did not direct the accounting entry to be made. There's no crime here. None. This is absolutely crazy. So at any rate, there's an agreement between the lawyers about what they will and will not let the jury see. I'll show this to you real quick. And this is again from Politico. With Trump, the jury and the judge out of the courtroom, prosecutors and Trump's lawyers have been huddled over a table, flipping through giant stacks of papers containing testimony from the trial and debating which portions are responsive to the jury note, requesting to review 4 different pieces of testimony. They've been at it for about 90 minutes now. Going a little further, with Marchand back on the bench, prosecutor Joshua Steinglass told him that prosecutors and Trump's lawyers agree on which pages of testimony are responsive to 3 of the 4 of the jury's requests. They have disputes about which portions respond to the jury's request for Pecker's testimony about the meeting. Marchand said he'll review the disputed portions of testimony, dismiss the court for the day at about 5:30 Eastern. And that, my friends, is your wrap-up for what happened in Manhattan in court today with regard to the Trump trial. Oh, Lord. That was just all kinds of, yeah. So like I say, the jury deliberated for just a little under 5 hours, came back out, asked for 4 pieces of testimony to look at it again, or to at least hear it. They asked the judge to repeat some or all of his instructions. I have a feeling it's just some of it. And tomorrow they'll go back into deliberations. Where that leaves it, I don't know. Like I say, personally, I'm inclined to think that there are some jurors among this 12, I don't know how many, might be 1, might be more, that they're looking at this testimony, they're looking at everything, and they're like, I don't know about this. And then you've got the other jurors who really want to nail Trump. They're like, nope, we'll show you we're right. We'll show you we're right. So we'll see. We will see. Anyway, that's where it stands right now. If my instructions ran 55 pages, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Up in Connecticut. I agree with you completely. So there we go. So anyway, it's about 8:30 on a Wednesday night. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm known as the Front Porch Conservative. You are listening into Chattin on the Porch, a live stream dedicated to allowing you to catch up on the news. And it has been a very big news day and will be an even bigger news day tomorrow, as my theory is they're coming back with a verdict. I will be, if this goes into a third day, I will be shocked. But there are other things going on in the news, and we should probably get to them. And last bit of my commercial. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So do me a favor on either Rumble or Twitter. Give me a thumbs up. Please, please, please give me a thumbs up on both places. It really helps with the algorithm. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe to both my YouTube and my Rumble channels. It would help me out greatly. I would appreciate it much. Okay, let us shift gears. So while Donald Trump is in the courtroom in Manhattan trying to fend off 34 felony counts of bogus charges, President Joe Biden is out campaigning. Well, I'm glad to see he woke up and decided to do something. So Biden went up to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and went to a place called Girard College, which is a high stakes, highfalutin preparatory school. Now, much has been made lately of the very large crowds that Donald Trump is getting in places like southern New Jersey and the Bronx and other places around the country as he's out campaigning. Well, need you think that Joe Biden will be outdone? He got a very big crowd too. And yeah, that is from the gymnasium at Girard College, the preparatory school. And I'm pretty sure that gym is not even half full. A high school gymnasium, and they can't even get a big crowd in for that. TBA says, so were there 56 people there? I don't know how many people were there, but I'm sorry. This is the President of the United States. Can someone please explain to me why this guy can't draw a crowd? Well, let me rephrase that. He can draw a crowd of flies, but that's about all he can do it. Yeah, his 81 million in attendance. There you go, small time. There you go. Now, so Biden gave a speech, and whenever I use that expression, I always get very nervous because, oh my God, anything could happen. But I will give Biden credit for this much. He gave a speech today, all right. And I want you guys to go back to 2020. Remember how he said that he was going to return things to normalcy and that he was going to be the unifier? He'd bring the country together and all that good stuff. Oh, you want some proof of how much he's bringing the country together? This clip runs about a minute. I am not going to stop it. I know where I will stop it, but I want you guys to hear this in its entirety. So, folks, do me a favor and listen to the great unifier, President Joseph R. Biden.
Now he's running again, and is clearly unhinged. He calls insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol patriots. Patriots. If reelected, he wants to pardon, quote, every one of them. Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed it? Think about this.
Excuse me? You want to say that again, big boy? Let me make sure I heard you correctly.
Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed it? Think about this.
Are you guys catching this? Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but Isn't that what they call race baiting? And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Hold on. Let's just make sure about this. Let's just make sure I heard him right. Hang on a minute. Got it. You know, because I'm getting older. Sometimes I don't always understand everything the way I should. Let's listen to this.
Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed it? Think about this. What do you think would have happened if black Americans had stormed the Capitol?
Yeah. Yep, that's race baiting. That is race baiting. But tell you what, let's finish this. Let's keep on. I mean, look, hey, he's the great unifier. He's going to bring the country together. He's going to return things to normal. He's all about normalcy and standards and decency and all that good stuff. Let's see what other kind of standards and decency and normalcy he wants to talk about.
I don't think he'd be talking about pardons. It's the same guy who wanted to tear gas you as you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder. The same guy who still calls the Central Park Five guilty, even though they were exonerated. He's that landlord who denies housing applications because of the color of your skin. He's that guy who won't say Black Lives Matter and invokes neo-Nazi Third Reich terms. We all remember Trump is the same guy who unleashed birthism, the birthism lie against Barack.
You know, I've never had any reason to like I've never had any reason to like Joe Biden. Joe Biden, to me, is the epitome of everything wrong with American politics. He is small. He is petty. He's unthought. He doesn't think. He's greedy. He's manipulative. He's conniving. He's a divider. And I will say it right now. And I don't care if this gets clipped, and I don't care if a copy of this gets sent to the damn White House. He is a racist son of a bitch. And if ever you needed proof of his racism and how he's using race to divide Americans, that about a 1 minute speech right there, about a minute and a half, that'll do it. Just show that to your friends. That's out on realclearpolitics.com. It's not hard to find. I found it real easy. Yeah. This is the guy who denies you a place to rent to live. This is the guy who won't say that Black Lives Matter. Joe, I think there's a reason for that. That's because all lives matter, and it doesn't really matter the color of your skin. I want Joe Biden defeated so badly in November, I cannot stand it. His kind of politics and the members of his party that are just like him need to be consigned to the political and intellectual ash heap of history, such that we never hear from them again. He is absolutely a racist through and through. And that speech, look, if you don't want to vote for Donald Trump come November, that's fine. I may not agree with your decision, but I respect it. But this next comment is for the independents out there who are going to watch this video. How in the name of God can you watch something like that and listen to those words come out of his mouth and say to yourself, yeah, I want another 4 years of that? Just saying. And remember, and small time, that was the quote I was trying to think of. I could not call it up in my memory, but thank you for bringing this one up. They want to put us back in chains. He said this back when Obama was president. He was out campaigning as the Veep. this speech right here, this one just topped that. Honestly, that comment about they want to put you back in chains, that's tame compared to what this shit is. Yeah. Oh, hold on to that thought up in Connecticut. I got something for you. Yeah, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Oh, hey. Yeah. I can't say anything. My state had Robert Byrd, former recruiter for the Ku Klux Klan. So I can't really say anything either. But this guy, yeah. TBA over on Rumble says Joe is doing everything possible to destroy America. You ain't wrong, brother. You are not wrong. Well, anyway, not to be outdone, and before I get to that point, I almost forgot something. There's probably a reason why Joe Biden is in Philadelphia at a predominantly African American preparatory school. There's some polling that came out of Virginia, and Leanne, this one's gonna thrill your heart, darling. There's a poll that came out of Virginia today, and you remember how I said that there's been an absolute shift across the country in Donald Trump's favor? Now, I want to back up for a second and remind everybody, and Leanne can probably remember this better than anybody else, remind everyone that Joe Biden beat Donald Trump in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2020 by just about 11 points. Matter of fact, hang on a minute. Let me pull this up and let you guys see it for yourselves. Not that I know you would not believe me, but I do like this for reference. Okay. So here's the 2020 map. Okay. Here's the Old Dominion of Virginia. Just about 10 points. Okay. All right. That's 10 points. Now remember, that's what Biden won by in 2020. Okay. The poll that came out of Virginia today, Leanne, get ready, darling. From Roanoke College, head to head, Biden against Trump, they're tied. And if you throw in third-party candidates, Biden has a 2-point lead. The margin of error on that poll is 4%. Let me put that back up there again. Leanne, I can probably hear you screaming all the way over from the Shenandoah Valley. Again, from Roanoke College, head-to-head, Trump-Biden, they're tied. Throw in third-party candidates, Biden is up by 2, and the margin of error on that poll is 4%. And just how accurate is that poll? Well, our favorite pollster, Rich Barris, had some commentary on that. The final Roanoke College poll for 2020 was 53% for Biden, 42% for Trump. That was the margin of marginal improvement for Trump versus their previous poll 2 weeks earlier, which had him down by 15. So these dismissals of the poll I'm seeing are just copium. So, yeah, darling. Yep. Hell yes. Hell yes. I thought you'd get a kick out of that piece of news. I'm telling you, folks, there is a shift across this country, and you can see it starting up in New York State. Donald Trump lost New York State to Joe Biden by, I want to say it was 23 points. Right now, he's down by 9. Okay. No, it's 22 points. Excuse me. 22 points. He's down by 9. Okay. According to Siena College. That's a 13-point shift in Trump's favor. Now, in some states in this country, and if you take that as the benchmark, and again, it's not exactly perfect, but you get my point here, okay? Look around the country. He's barely behind Biden in Minnesota. In Virginia, he's tied. I am dying to see some polling coming out of places like New Mexico. I mean, in New Hampshire, it's close. There's a shift in every state coming to Trump. Now, does that mean that everyone that's shifting is going to go for Trump on November 5th? No, but it means the field is expanded. Whereas before, the Democrats only had to worry about locking up their base and making sure they protect the Great Lakes, or what I come to call the three wise men of the North, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. No, now they have to defend more territory. Ladies and gentlemen, it's altogether possible that on election night, that Donald Trump could take Virginia, and then it doesn't matter what happens up around the Great Lakes. I mean, consider this possibility. I mean, right now, all the projections are this. If the election were tomorrow, Donald Trump would retake Georgia, he'd retake Arizona, and he'd take Nevada. If those three states by themselves go to Trump, he only needs one more. Basically, that's about 10 or 11 electoral votes. Everybody's looking at the three wise men of the North, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. But what if he takes Virginia? What if he takes all of Maine? What if he takes New Hampshire? Virginia by itself would eliminate the need to even look at the three wise men of the North. Okay? You wouldn't even have to worry about Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He takes Virginia and he takes Georgia and Arizona and Nevada, it's game over. There's nowhere for Biden to go. What if he takes Virginia and Minnesota? That's 22 electoral votes right there. He takes Virginia and Minnesota. He gets Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. It's game over. It's absolutely game over. Well, Ohio is already considered to be in the bag for Trump. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, but no one's Ohio, believe it or not, strangely enough, Ohio is not even the kingmaker this year among the Great Lakes states. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It is absolutely possible. That's what I'm saying. The board, again, anything can happen in 5 months and a handful of days. But right now, I would much rather be Donald Trump on the Electoral College board than I would be Biden. Biden's got to do something that is almost unheard of. He's got to run the table. If he loses Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, that means he must take all three of the wise men of the North. Biden has to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He loses any one of the three under the scenario that I'm describing, and he loses the presidency. TBA says Biden can't run the table. He can't even run. He stumbles at best. All right, smart aleck, you get the idea. But yeah, I appreciate the joke, but you get the idea. Biden has to run the table with the three wise men of the North and pick up Nebraska 2. If he does that, he's got 270, which I could still kick the Republicans' collective ass out there in Nebraska for not changing the law that lets them have winner take all in Nebraska again. My home office is in Michigan. I work a lot of libs. They're not excited to vote, and some of them talk about it. I wouldn't be surprised. And again, the trick to figuring out where someone like RFK is going to make a difference is what state does he actually wind up being on the ballot. And just remember, folks, officially, he's only on 3 of them right now. He's only on Michigan, Oklahoma, and Utah. And 2 of those 3 are not going to make a bit of difference. I agree with this. I agree with this completely. So I don't dispute that at all, my brother. And good to have you here tonight, Robert. Glad to have you as always. Well, I mean, you can always come to West Virginia. I mean, we'll take refugees from wherever across the country. We don't believe in high taxes. We let you keep your guns, and we don't like killing babies. Not necessarily in that order. So come on. Glad to have you. So yeah, keep your eyes open. And oh, by the by, I got to tease y'all with something polling related. I got wind of something, which, I mean, y'all can find it, but I got wind of it yesterday. There is a poll that's about to drop from a pollster that gets wrongfully accused of being pro-Trump, and that's not actually the case. They're about to drop something in the next couple of days that when they do, if you think the Democrats are weeping and moaning and wailing and gnashing their teeth now, just wait till this hits. Because the top line number is going to be bad enough. But it's the numbers underneath that are just devastating to Biden. I'll just tease it with that. Okay. No, it's not Frank Luntz. It's not Frank Luntz, WWG1. It's somebody else. They get accused of being pro-Trump. That's not the case. That's really not. Not if you take a good hard look at them. So there you go. All right. Now let's get to those other stories real quick that I wanted to touch on before we get out of here.
I think
Stop talking. You don't talk until I tell you get to talk. You hush up over there. Woman. Don't be giving me lip. Not till I'm ready for you to give me lip. And with that, boomer moment, let us take a look at an appearance by FLOTUS today. First Lady Jill Biden went on The View. And if ever you needed an example of confession through projection, you're going to get it here with this 45-second clip. Folks, get ready because this gets quite amusing.
I think the American people deserve a debate because you need to see your choices. You need to see Trump and you need to see the president and you need to see the differences. And my husband's, and you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has. And then you'll see somebody who, like you're saying, I'm going to use Julie's words, can't put a sentence together. Right. And everything is beautiful and it's wonderful.
Tremendous.
Tremendous. Yeah. So I think the American people deserve to see the two men who are running for this office because your choice is going to be clear.
Yeah.
Oh, the choice is going to be clear. All right. You need to see my husband who's smart and experienced. And then you need to see the other guy. Jeez, I gotta get back to that again. Hang on. That's just rich. That is just absolutely rich. Hang on. I got to put this back up there. I got to play this again.
Choices. You need to see Trump and you need to see the president and you need to see the differences. And my husband's, and you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has.
Oh, we know what kind of experience he has, sister. Some experiences we really don't like thinking about, but we're all gonna know his experiences, and we definitely see how smart he is. Oh, the line that got me in that was, you see Donald Trump and the president. Unbelievable. Hello, darling. Glad to have you here tonight. Mwah. Love you. Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. You got money going on this? Okay, well, good on you, dude. I hope you do win. Your lips to God's ear on those states. All right, a couple of more quick little things. We'll skedaddle out of here for the night. There is some other Biden news, and this has to do with the first son. You know, everybody's focusing right now on Donald Trump and this trial up in New York, which, okay, I understand it's appropriate. I get it. But come June, we're going to shift gears big time, focusing on Hunter. Now, in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, Hunter's got a trial that starts in Delaware on a gun charge. And believe me, Bo's not back in the news, but his brother is. Check this out. Apparently, Hunter tried one last attempt at getting the trial on the gun charge, either make it go away or get it way past the election. Ain't happening. From the U.S. District Court in the District of Delaware at Wilmington on this 29th day of May, on May 14th, defendant Robert Hunter Biden filed a motion to enjoin the special counsel investigation of prosecution for continuing violations of the Appropriations Clause. Government responded May 22nd. After careful review of all materials submitted for reasons set forth, it is hereby ordered his motion is denied. Ladies and gentlemen, in simpler language, Hunter Biden's going on trial in Delaware starting in June, and he can't stop it now. So for all y'all Trump haters out there that are, sipping the champagne right now, I hate to say it this way, but you're about to get your comeuppance. You're just about to get your comeuppance. Oh, one last thing, Hunter related, and we'll end it on this. Did you know that Hunter Biden's baby mama got a book coming out? And not only does baby mama have a book coming out, the book is coming out during the Democrat National Convention. Check out this story from Breitbart. This will crack you up. London Roberts, Hunter Biden's baby mama, to release a tell-all book on roller coaster fling during Democrat National Committee Week. Article by Elizabeth Wiebel. We have the following. London Roberts, a former stripper and the mother of Hunter Biden's daughter born out of wedlock, Navy Joan, is releasing a tell-all roller coaster memoir in August during the week that the Democrat National Convention is taking place. Oh, as if that shite show doesn't have enough going on. Roberts will be releasing her memoir, Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden, on August 20th, which details her, quote, tumultuous relationship with Biden, according to Skyhorse Publishing. The memoir's release coincides with the Democrat Party's national convention, which will take place in Chicago, Illinois, between August 19th and August 22nd. This comes almost a year after the younger Biden and Roberts settled a dispute over child support. As part of the settlement, Hunter agrees to pay $5,000 of monthly child support payments to Roberts in regard to his estranged daughter with her. Quote, he was sitting there wearing nothing but parrot boxer briefs. Ugh. Oh, Lord, I did not need that image before I go to bed. Anyway. Organizing his pipes on his Rosemont Seneca desk, an excerpt from Roberts' upcoming memoir says, I was sitting in Barack Obama's actual chair from the Senate floor. I took another look at Hunter, this kind, intense, and startlingly transparent man, and thought, this is definitely a guy I want to get to know better, she writes in her book. Going a little further into this, in her memoir, London Roberts writes about her journey from moving from Arkansas to Washington, D.C., and about her first meeting with Biden ended up being a, quote, wild journey that has made an impact on her life. The description of the book on the publishing company's website reads as follows. Out of the Shadows chronicles that wild roller coaster ride of a relationship, touching on the drug cook working in a Rosemont Seneca kitchen, strip clubs where Hunter might try the pole himself. Oh God, there's another image I did not need. Protecting him from a would-be terrorist in New York City, The night she grabbed 2 guns and was certain she would have to fatally shoot a crazed MMA fighter, and dozens of other stories that make the laptop debacle seem routine. Biden had previously denied being the father of Navy Joan, but a paternity test conducted in 2019 proved that he was the father. The president's son reportedly ignored Roberts for several months while she was pregnant, according to a report from the Washington Free Beacon. Navy Joan was born August 28, 2018. At the time that Navy Joan was born, Hunter was involved in a relationship with Haley Biden, the widow of his late brother, Beau Biden. In July 2023, the president finally acknowledged his 7th grandchild, Navy Joan. Until that moment, he and his wife, Jill Biden, had acknowledged on several occasions that they had 6 grandchildren instead of 7. Woo! Oh, God. Folks, let me give you this thought as we start to wrap it up for the night. I know that there's a lot of reason to feel down, especially if this verdict goes the way a lot of us are expecting. But the night does not last forever. And starting when the sun rises on June 1st, one way or another, this trial that Trump's going through is going to be out of the news, and Hunter Biden is about to take center stage. So just keep that thought in mind as you roll into your Thursday. And with that, we are concluding our live stream known as Chattin on the Porch. My name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Thank you all for being here tonight. As always, you are awesome. Do me a favor again. The commander, who is in chat right now, has a YouTube channel. We want to help and support him if we can. Let me find it. Let me find it at the post again. I'll put it up there because I want, if you can, if y'all can do it, I'd really appreciate it. But do me a favor, go out to his channel, check him out, and let me find it again here real quick. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, the commander has a YouTube channel called The Tower Commander, trying to make daily videos talking about politics. Please do me a favor, go out and give him support. Also, please remember my good friend Christian Watson, who is here in the audience tonight. Let me find his most recent post. But he's got a video coming out on June 1st related to Pride Month. And please, please, please support both of these guys. They're good folk. And we always want to make it a point to support members of the audience if they're getting into social media. So please, please help them out. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the night. We're going to be back tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. I got a feeling we're going to get a verdict sometime tomorrow, and we will be talking about it, among other things that are in the news. So once again, I want to thank you guys for being here. I love every one of you. Thank you all for being on Rumble. Thank you all for being on YouTube and Twitter. You guys are the coolest audience on the whole of the internet. I'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30. And as we sign off, please remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." Thanks for chatting on the porch with me, and we'll see you tomorrow night.